intro in terms of what's going on with us lot, and then we're going to move to the farmers. So we've got Ed and Andy this evening. We've got sort of 5 main themes that we want to really talk about. One is about diversity within their farm and also their businesses, how they're keeping to strive for continuous improvement. So we'll touch upon that. Marketing seems to be quite an important element of both of their businesses. So we'll talk about marketing and how they're developing these good working relationships with a variety of people within their businesses and sort of the connections. And also we're really interested in how they're adding value to their products, their farm, their land and all of that. So they're the sort of main areas that we're going to be talking about. But as we may go anywhere, that is the structure that we're trying to work to, but we shall see. And we're probably going to be here for about an hour and a half, something like that. Again, it is a bit variable. And so also when we move, talk through the farmers, they've also got some pictures. So we'll take paint a picture of what their farm is like and what they currently do through some photos that Joseph, I hope, is going to share his screen, so you'll all get to see them. So update from Nick. How is lockdown for you up in Cumbria?
Mixed, I'd say. First of all, we're really lucky. Obviously, most people on the call are probably similar. We're on a farm. You probably don't realise how lucky we are. And then it's not until I go shopping to Penrith, and then it all gets a bit scary and real. So the kids are running around outside, and we're just coming. We've probably got about 80 left to lamb at 550. Calving starts in a couple of weeks. Lambing's gone really well. The helm wind did batter us. We have this phenomenon where our farm is, which is an east wind, which just unless you've experienced it, I do go on and on about this helm wind, but it is the most awful thing. So we lost a few lambs in that, and just a bit of mismothering. But I think what I've realised through lockdown and lambing is that food is really important, and we have survived on a lot of bowls of crunchy nut cornflakes, as have you, Liz.
I have.
Now,
it is my weakness.
How long can you last? How long does a box of cornflakes last?
It depends on a good day, bad day. On a good day, 2 days. On a bad day, a day. Just because there's always a little bit of milk and there's always more cornflakes, and it could be worse. It could be crack cocaine, but unfortunately my addiction is crunchy nut cornflakes. So I apologise. Well, no, I should be proud of it. I am addicted to crunchy nut cornflakes. I apologise.
Be careful how you say that.
Indeed.
But I suppose, Liz, we should really probably say how this came about. So Liz and I used to work together, and then some of you who were on the call 2 weeks ago will have already heard this, so I apologise. But we went to Groundswell, were inspired, but thought, wouldn't it be good to have something similar in the north with more livestock based. So we've organised this conference called Carbon Calling, which was due to take place in August. Still at the minute, it's still going ahead at Kirby Thorne near Penrith, and we've got some amazing speakers. And the idea of this is just to kind of it's lockdown fun, but also and therapy, but also to keep that carbon calling ball rolling. So each week we're kind of having a theme. So this time it's about there's a strong marketing element to it, and both the farmers who are talking have both got other jobs they do, which is interesting. Next time it'll be something else which we'll talk about at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the best thing to do now is to get Andy and Ed. Hopefully you've got your mics up.
Yep.
And if Andy somewhere, we'll start with Ed. Yep. He's here. So in terms of we can put those photos up as well. Let me just do that. And Ed, would you like to start in terms of just explaining or describing your farm or what you do?
So we are So I'm the fifth generation of farmers on the at Clanville Manor. It's my parents' farm. It's been my stepfather's generation. We're now at 55 hectares across the farm. We went into official organic conversion last year, so we're in our second year of conversion now. However, we've been farming organically for the past 4 or 5 years across the grassland part of the farm, and now we're on to the whole. We've taken some of the arable, all the arable back in hand, which is now we're farming a bit of blackgrass, but the cattle seem to like it, so we're now fully organic across the whole farm. We have a mixture of, we are purely beef with 300 laying hens, and variety of pastures, polycultures, herbal lays, mixed pastures such as you can see here, where we've got sort of rye, radish, turnip, grasses, clovers and vetches in there that we drilled last year. So all mob grazing. So that's sort of us.
And how many cows do you have, or how many cattle do you have?
There's about 180 head on the farm at the moment with the cows and calves. We've got 52 cows in the herd, 2 Angus bulls. The cows are a mixture of Angus, some Hereford cross British Friesian, some older limos in there, and a couple of blues. But we're now running, this is our third year now of running Angus bulls on the farm. We used to run limos, but we found they struggled to convert grass into meat.
And that is another picture also on the screen of your farm in terms of what you're up to at the minute.
Yeah, so the picture to your left, to the top left, is a pasture cropping experiment which we did in 2018. That was a field. It wasn't very big, 6-7 acres. Wasn't performing very well, so we thought, well, let's just give it a go. Let's try something else in there. So I borrowed a direct drill from a friend of ours, and we drilled in a mixture of whatever we had in the shed, and that was oats, vetch, wheat and beans went into there. We drilled it on the 1st of November, which was not ideal being that late in the year, but the grass had gone dormant. Came up quite well. That photo there was taken probably in January. We took it through, we grazed half of the field, and we baled half of the field, and the field has had quite good effects. It has started to come back quite nice. Well, it came back quite nicely last year. We had plans on drilling some more in this year into a few more fields, but the weather gave us a few issues with that.
And we'll come back, and so in terms of, and also whether it's just worth, we'll come back to some of these, but in terms of highlighting what your current business is.
Yeah, so we over the last couple of years we started pushing a beef box scheme. So we're selling frozen direct from the farm in boxes, predominantly within the nearest 10-mile radius. The Corona lockdown has had quite a good drive for that. We also do pastured eggs, so we have a mobile, literally a mobile home, which we converted into a chicken house with roll-away nest boxes, and that moves around. Here you go. That moves around the pastures. The field that you can see it in there is one that we run the. So it tends to be our sort of like. It's our orchard paddock, so it's about 2 acres, and we just run cattle in there waiting to calve or sort of sick, lame and lazies. So the chickens haven't been in there for a while, so it needed a bit of an injection of nitrogen, a bit of a scarify. So the hens are in there. The eggs, we started off selling eggs through a pack house. Unfortunately, that packer went bankrupt middle part of last year. We used to sell under the brand of Birds and Herds. They went bankrupt, and so we were left with a mountain of eggs, 300 chickens, keep on laying eggs, and nowhere to sell them to. we're in the process of building a sort of a freezer room, sort of all ply lined and to environmental health standards. So we very quickly applied for our egg packing license to be allowed us to pack eggs in there as well. And since then we've carried on to sell to some of the butchers that take our meat, plus a local estate to take the bulk of our eggs, which also happens to be the same estate that I work at.
Ed, could you just explain how many days after, when the cows have been in a paddock, how many days after do the chickens follow?
The chickens can follow anything from sort of 4 days behind to they can be a month behind. It has different benefits. If you put them right up behind the cows, they can they do a good job of eating all the grubs and fly larvae in the cow muck, but it is quite a time-consuming task of moving them that quickly up behind the cows, especially when we're mob grazing earlier on in the spring, and we're trying to push around the fields quickly. As you can see, we have the electronet around there, and then we move the house inside that electronet. The house moves daily, but the net can move every sort of 5 to 7 days. So they are following behind, but even a chicken will still attack a cowpat that's been there for 3 months with same ferocity and still finds grubs, etc., underneath it. However, some of those are more beneficial worms that we actually want in the ground.
How do you tell them not to eat those ones and eat the other ones?
I keep on trying to, but my chicken language just hasn't hasn't got there yet. They will spread a cowpat out into sort of in the area about a square metre. We run a variety of different colours and breeds of chickens. That's partly due to when we were doing the birds and herds, what we were looking for something different, something to sort of set us apart. And so we had Aracanas, I can't remember the rest of them, but basically to give us all different coloured eggs. So we have white eggs, we have green eggs, we have blue eggs, we have chocolatey brown eggs, and we have some standard eggs in there as well.
So Ed, just going back to the cows. So you're fattening your cattle totally off grass.
Totally off grass, yeah. We're going through PFLA certification at the moment. And
how often are you moving them?
So the ones you can see there in the field they're moved twice a day. First thing in the morning, and then sort of last thing sort of 6 o'clock in the evening. They're moved across into the next paddock.
And are you doing that yourself, or have you got some fancy system to like move, sort of electronic?
I would love to say I do it all myself on the farm, but I don't. I'm very lucky to have a stepfather who's still farming and is doing. He does the bulk of the farm work. We're experimenting with back latches at the moment, but we are looking at another system, which hopefully should make life a bit easier for us. But that's still in development at the moment.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Great introduction. So Andy,
just 2 quick questions before you move on to Andy.
Okay.
What age and spec are you finishing the cattle to?
We're taking them up to. We are aiming to finish our cattle across a 12-month period to allow us to sell through the boxes. Some of our cattle are going over 30 months. We've had some of the runtier ones which tend to take a lot longer to finish at sort of 45 months. We sent 2 on today to a neighbour who has taken them on they went at 25 months old today. What was the other question? Sorry.
Specification.
Yes, they tend to go as R4L. We're a bit less picky than some of the 3-lettered abattoirs as to our grade when they're finished. To our sort of eye, that's when they go on, because we're producing them for ourselves. We've got a bit more leniency in the process. Nothing goes off unfinished, but they just take a bit of time. Longer.
And two quick ones in relation to the chickens. Do they stay in the mobile home all winter?
All year round, they are in the well, all year round they are out at grass. We just carry on moving them around. During the winter, we tend to target them, a couple of them more in closer in fields, for ease of management. Some of the sort of drier fields that we've got, but also any fields that we sort of feel locally need a good injection of nitrogen through the winter. That's where they go.
Cool. And just last one quickly on the chickens. Do they receive any grains?
Yes, they do. They do still receive a grain. We tried mill and mix for ourselves, but just couldn't get the consistency and the quality right on milling it on the farm. So we now have a commercial blend that comes in, and they're fed that. Although I like to think that they use less grain, less feeds than they would if they were purely sort of not out at grass, because they're always on to fresh pasture, and you can always tell where they've been by the amount of sort of like prunage that's gone on.
Thank you.
So Andy, hello and welcome.
He was here.
He definitely was here.
Andy, they told you you were already talking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Andy. Oh, what a relief.
Right, yes, I'm definitely here. So yes,
we need to take the photos down, do we, for a second?
Oh yeah.
Don't mind.
Do we need to
Okay.
see? Oh, there it is.
You see me? Okay. Hello. Right.
So yeah, Andy, just in terms of a bit of background about what you've up to.
Okay. Yes. So we farm in Wiltshire, right on the Wiltshire-Gloucestershire border, between Cirencester and Swindon. So our closest place is Cricklade, and we're here. We're all permanent pasture. We've got 140 acres that we own, and then we rent about 20 acres. And we've got the River Thames, goes right through the centre of the farm, which it's normally about 20 foot wide, and that's sort of quite a dominant feature. So about a third of the farm floods, and that kind of dictates quite a lot what happens, really. We've got 85 suckler cows. We've got 2 bulls, so we've got a stabiliser bull, and we have got a Hereford bull that's an Australian embryo bull, which we've just bought actually. So that's quite interesting. Then at the moment we've got about 70, 80 calves. So we've just finished calving one bunch, which the last one calved about a week ago. And they're all, everything's out. Everything's been out since the 4th of April. And then our summer calving group start calving in July. They calve July and August. So yeah, we're Pasture for Life accredited, so both the farm and the butchery, and have been for about 2 years. And we're not organic, although a lot of what we do is following organic principles. We don't use any fertilizer. We're on everyday moves for both bunches of cattle here. And we also do quite a lot of conservation haymaking. So we've got surrounding the farm, we've got some 3 big nature reserves. We've got Blake Hill, which is Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, which is a 400-acre airfield, which is, I think, the largest hay meadow recreation project in the country. Then we've got North Meadow, which is a triple SI, which is where we do a lot of haymaking. And so we do about 60 acres of hay on there, which is really interesting because it's massively species diverse and one of the most studied meadows in the country. So it's got about 250 species of plant recorded in the meadow and in the sort of edge of it, the hedge. So, and that's a really important part of our business, and that fuels one of the suckler herds all winter, the ones that have just calved. And yeah, so that's what we do.
And sorry, Andy, to interrupt you. And the ambition of that hay is that you introduce it onto your land and it brings those some of the 250 species to you as well, or is that's the rough plan?
Kind of like a secondary benefit. So year before last, when we were feeding hay throughout the autumn out in the field with the daily moves, definitely did introduce some biodiversity with that. So I guess the main focus of the hay is actually so that we can do more grazing here on the farm, and also be involved with really interesting national nature reserve. And then we're putting as many animals as we can through our own meat business, selling direct, but we're still selling quite a few heavy stores at livestock market. But the goal is to sell everything direct to the customer and to butchers as whole carcasses. And
I'm going to put your photos up if that's...
Yeah. Okay. So, right, so this is both taken at the same time of year. So the one on the top is of our floodplain meadows taken about a week ago. And so we've had like serious flooding. So that starts to go underwater in September and finally dried out about 3-4 weeks ago. And it dried out really fast, and a huge amount of silt had been laid down and a lot of algae, because actually it was quite a warm winter. So we got these kind of algae mats. And so we're left with this. So we'd normally expect 400 snake's head fritillarias in bloom, like the picture below, but actually we got one.
Have you got a really big fence around it?
Well, there's I mean, it was on a little bit of a higher ground, but we looked at it, but the wood pigeons came back within a couple of days and ripped the head off it, which they tend to do. So it's been a bit of a tricky year, but that's just the way it goes. You've got to kind of move on.
And in terms of would you have had farm walks to come and look at those flowers, or do you mean, I remember you've done quite a lot of promotion around that wildflower meadow?
That's right, the snake's head fritillary, which is the pink flower, the bell-shaped flower in the lower picture. There's only about 27 sites in the country with them, and we use them in our marketing a lot. They're on our logo, and we do fritillary walks each spring, which have got really, really popular. In fact, we have to ticket them now. We don't charge, but just trying to manage numbers, and they're sort of an exciting, important point in the year. And so, we didn't do them this year because of COVID-19, but there wouldn't have been much to see on the roads anyway. So that's a bit left. Luckily they're not as some of the other floodplain meadows and places where we make hay. It's not quite as bad as it was here, and I've got to work out exactly why that is. So yeah, this just shows some of our cattle.
Sorry.
That's all right. So in terms of cows, a lot of the cows are bought in from our neighbour who's organic dairy farmer, and they are sort of Frisian cross Belgian blue. And then we've had a Hereford bull for years, and so they've got a bit of Hereford in them. And now, over the last 3 years, all the replacements have been stabiliser sired. So they're turning more brown coloured. And yeah, where the stabiliser genetics for the mothers is what we want.
Andy, you say you're not organic.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
So bizarrely, so North Meadow, where we get a lot of hay from, even though it's got that diversity, it's not organic. So they spot spray for some docks, and so that we couldn't use that hay and be organic. We also do some contract grazing for neighbours around. So we've got a lot of equestrian neighbours, and they'll suddenly say, "Oh, we've got a field full of too much grass. Is there anything you can do about it?" So because we're all rigged up with electric fencing, we can instantly turn up, walk the cows down the road, round to their place, plug into their water. So they don't actually know I've sawn into all their water pipes and put taps and tees, but it doesn't matter. So we can instantly go in and can extend my rest period, sometimes about to 10 days, 14 days, by picking up local grazing. And they're not organic. So
that kind of links me to when we spoke about this a few days ago, but organic, regenerative, what are your views? What's in your head, what do you think of as regenerative farming?
Shall I go first? Or yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we've got any other option. Is the truth in it, really? So, to me, it's about sort of building regenerative. It's all about building capital, and so that's whether that's your soil capital, your biodiversity capital on your farm, but it's also about, I think, social capital. Making those links with customers and the food chain. It's also about financial capital, because you can't do any of those other things unless you're actually making some money. And then, I think it's looking at the other sort of farmers that are interested in this. It's sort of regenerating yourself to some degree. So
therapy.
So having some energy and some enthusiasm, and getting that by talking to other people, joining networks, finding out tools and stuff you can do. And in the pasture for life side of it, so I've got so last week there was a lot of talk about hemp pants. So whenever things came up that sounded
that's Nick's fault.
Waves at various points. So within Pasture for Life, there's a thing that a very good friend John Meadley said, which is about the gift economy. Now that might sound a little bit hemp pants. It's
props.
It's this kind of the idea that
Ed's just drinking beer.
Sort of free with their
water.
Okay, I'll let you off.
And
sorry, Andy.
That's fine. Farmer to farmer learning, and so I think that is, for me, the regenerative thing is quite wide. And you can't do all of these things all the time, but you're trying. Your whole goal for me is to try and inch all of these things forward. So the biodiversity, soil, social, financial, and the self a bit. But yeah, anyway.
Well, James Evans, I don't know if he's on. He'll be very proud of those hemp pants. Ed,
they might not fit.
They will. Ed, your thoughts on the kind of word regenerative?
Regenerative, we discussed earlier on the week. Sustainable is sustaining something that's as it is. We are regenerative. We are regenerating the land. We are aiming for more carbon capture, more CO2 lock up into the ground, building our organic matters in the ground, because it has dual benefits of locking up more carbon and also allowing us to grow more food, run more cattle, make more pound notes at the end of the day. But yeah, we're regenerating the land, and as Andy just said, the network that is sort of growing through this is generating more. It's a background swell. It's a ground swell, as
yep.
A very good event sort of has the name of. There's much more communication between. I feel there's much more communication between farmers in the regenerative movement than there is in sort of the wider, more mainstream agriculture.
Sorry, Ed, to interrupt, but do you mean both of you have got all of these different layers to your business, haven't you? So you have a lot. It's quite diverse in terms of your business. Is that important, or did that come as a consequence, or
I think it is important. you've got Joel Salatin, who talks about stacking enterprises. You can't keep selling out a product such as grain straight into the merchants, or finishing beef and sending it straight out is very much market dictated. If there's a big slump in the market and you're sending all your cattle off to one finisher, you're in the proverbial. But if you've got more layers and more diversity, such as us with the eggs, with processing the beef, with selling carcasses, you've got quite a good diversity there. Not all of them are ever going to be fully up and making money, but they all benefit the whole. It's a holistic view of management.
I have some quick fire questions for Andy. I'm conscious I didn't get a chance to about what he's doing, so I'll fire one or two out. For your daily moves, Andy, how many are you running together, and how big of an area do you give them?
So the bunch that I'm personally moving daily is actually got 75 in at the moment. So that is 40 cows, 35 calves. They're coming up for weaning in probably about 2 weeks. And so at the moment, the grass growth was, so when we went out the 4th of April, it was a bit risky. So I was trying to get them out as soon as ground conditions allowed, and wanting to give them a much bigger area. So they started off on probably an acre and a half, and that I ratchet that down as the grass is growing. In an ideal world, I'd be going into welly high grass at this time of year and leaving plenty behind. I'm actually going into a little bit less than that, but the grass is growing, and we've had 13 mil of rain today. We had an inch 10 days ago, so I know that growth is going to explode. So I vary the paddock sizes. I try and I'm got semi-permanent dividers down quite a few fields now, which me and the kids have been putting up, and so I vary the paddock. I don't do a huge amount of measuring, but I know the mob weight,
Sorry, it's my sister. Anyway.
She's an artist.
She looks like Brain from Thunderbirds. Carry on.
So it's variable, is what I'm saying.
Just on that as well, what was your management beforehand, and what's the biggest difference you've seen compared to what you previously done on the farm?
So when I moved back here in 2012, everything was set stocked. So there were 2 herds, and quite a few of the fields didn't have any water troughs. So it was not uncommon for cattle to walk 300 or 400 meters through 3 fields back to a water trough. So I've some Google Earth pictures of these radiating lines in the farm radiating out from water troughs, and it's really interesting. So one of those fields I managed to get into my platform this week year, and that dry summer of 2018, we got those rescue areas.
Where's this maths from?
And so we've actually seen the bare earth sort of recolonized. In fact, it's very difficult in some places to find those channels that have been made. Just given a rescue period, but vegetation. So that's good. And then on some of the contract haymaking we're doing, we've also seen a massive increase. So going into sites where there was no haymaking or hadn't been for many years, so it's very late, going in with really well-timed haymaking twice a year, one early, one late. We've changed the biodiversity hugely. Loads more orchids, loads more fritillaries, less rushes. So that's been quite good.
And one last question, and a quick one. What drove you to purchase of a Hereford as opposed to sticking with the stabilizer? Other breeds are available Just
Yeah. So when I moved back, I was conscious that a lot of our animals, so we're producing beef, but a lot of the slaughter generation confirmation.
Oh, hold on. We just
Is
got a bit of-
someone not muted?
I think
So some of the confirmation was really poor. So, and we were achieving pretty poor prices with animals that were close to 30 months being sold at stores. So we needed to improve that. I thought that stabilizers were a good bet because I believed the data behind them. I knew that they were in America, they were erupted on sort of cow and calf operations in Montana and places. And a lot of people were, they were just doing it for us. Yes, a lot of the progeny was going to feedlots, but I thought it was worth looking at. And so that's where we went down that route. And we've got rapid improvement. However, my uncle didn't, I wanted to go completely stabilizer, but we had a family meeting. There's 6 partners in our business, and I was outvoted on shifting away from Herefords. And there was also a big debate about they felt that customers wouldn't buy stabilizer beef, they'd only buy Hereford beef. So we kind of accommodated, and we've got a Hereford bull, but it is very much a terminal sire type of bull. And he arrived about a month ago, so we'll see what he does. And he's got proven meat quality genetics, which I think are really, really important.
So I'm really intrigued to follow the 6 partnership question or statement. So in terms of, we haven't really talked about your meat side yet, but in terms of how have you managed to push through quite a lot of your changes with that level of, I was going to say interference, but support?
Yeah, so no, I'm incredibly lucky that so I live at Waterhay Farm, and my uncle lives in the farmhouse. We live in the bungalow. So there's him and his wife in the partnership. There's myself, and then at the farm I grew up on down the road is my brother. I think he's on this call, and my mum and dad. And so it's one business, 2 farms, and over the last 8 years, we've so I came into the partnership a year ago, and so we've had family meetings. Some things I've just done and sneaked through. Some things we've had a lot of debate about. I must admit, sometimes it frustrates me that we have to go through 6 people and things can take a long time. But then other things that I did think would be tricky sort of sail through. So, I'm very fortunate as a family business to come back to. But yeah, it can be a challenge. Different people have got different priorities. But me and my brother work together really well. We've got the same objectives. And so we're a really good team. We can normally convince our mum. And
that's half a year, 50% of the partners.
It's really important, yeah. And but no, we get along pretty well. It's like any family. You're not going to agree on everything. But the breeds of cattle was a real crunchy one, which I hadn't quite expected.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to expand on that. And so in terms of if we just briefly go back into for Andy, just to talk a bit briefly about your meat side, and then we'll move on. I'll put this back up, and then we can just have a quick look through. So that's you've doing in terms of if you're thinking about marketing or how you're marketing that product, I suppose.
Yeah. So essentially, we are selling direct to the customer. We have a website. We have a MailChimp list. And so the most important.
So just clarify what MailChimp is. Sorry.
Okay, so it's a program online that allows you to compose emails with pictures in and send them out to a group of people. And so the most important thing is to get hold of potential customers' email addresses and then we can send them an email. It's direct. You put their names into the database, and it says, "Dear Liz," and tells you the message. And you can do quite a lot of things with MailChimp in terms of analytics. So you can see who's opening your emails, what time they opened them, what computer they're using, where in the world they are. Huge amount of information. And if, all of us are signed up to email lists for companies we like, and they're getting all that information back from us. And it's free as well. So we send out emails. We don't send out that many of them. And we try and run things in a bit of a cycle. So at the moment, we're doing 2 cattle a month. So I send out an email about 3 weeks before they're ready, and try and keep it to a concise list of boxes and choices. And people email back and they pay on collection. So we try and do everything from on-farm pop-up shop, and we do an hour at my brother's and an hour and a half at mine on Saturday morning. Try and do all the meat in those really tight timescales. That's what we did do. However, we've been forced due to COVID-19 to kind of move online. So I built a web shop about 10 days ago. And
hang on, Andy, just stop there. You built a web shop. And that for a lot of people, including me, that's quite something. So you've had to upskill yourself quite a lot, I would say, have you? Or maybe it's in you already. I don't know.
So my brother does free-range turkeys and has had a web shop on the back of his website.
Yeah.
So we put a bit of beef on there, but it got a little confusing. So I basically used the software that he used, and I use Wix for my website, which is it's pretty easy to use, and paid £5 a month for a web shop function, linked it to PayPal, and off we went, and it went really well. And so the plan was to try and move customers really from sort of casual email to ordering online. The other thing, I needed to do it because online shop means you collect all their information, which in terms of name, address, telephone number, getting that accurately is really important. And when I did a delivery on a previous animal, we had a few issues with telephone numbers, etc. So we 3/4 of the customers, between 2/3 and 3/4, ordered through the web shop, so it was a great success. And then other people ordered if they wanted bespoke stuff, so that was fine. And we're doing free delivery to a local area. So we're very focused on local customers, and that's gone really well for the 2 animals that I put on the shop.
And in terms of just hinting this, you've got the sign on the gate in the bottom left, which is again is about the local element, isn't it? And then your big banner on the right, which is a bit about getting the M4 involved.
Yeah. So one of our best ways of marketing is gate signs. So these are little signs with that screw onto gates. They have a leaflet dispenser on the corner, and people pick up a leaflet and order. Some people even phone on their mobile or send an email from stood in front of the sign, which is quite interesting. I've had the odd one vandalized, but that's all right. And they're sort of cheap and effective. You can move them around. They kind of work. And so I think a lot of people want the message in different ways and at different times. So we do that. I do a little bit on Facebook. The email is a really important one. And then the guy who does a bit of silage baling for us managed to acquire this 3 metre by 6 metre mobile billboard. And we heard he'd got it. So my brother and my dad went and collected it, and it's huge. You could actually probably live inside it. It's got
you could get some chickens to live inside it. That's what we need to do.
That would be good. The mobile chicken billboard. Yeah, that's a really good idea. So we are.
Yes, well, that doesn't.
He's got no work due to the current situation. He's a conceptual graphic designer, which apparently is a thing. And so he's put together, for very reasonable money, designs. We're just finalising those. And we're going to put this next to the M4 on my brother's place, and hopefully get some business off that. So again, it's trying to come up with cheap ways of doing it. I mean, this is a really expensive job for us. This is going to cost about £500 to have the banner made. So we've got to get it right.
Scroll, darling. I know what scrolling means.
But,
Sorry, can everybody put their mutes, your mics on mute, please? Thanks. We don't. Joseph, can you override?
I've already done it.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's about finding interesting things to do it, to market and find all sorts.
Thank you very much.
Just briefly, so on the here, I think making sure, so we've got a Pasture for Life sign on our labels, QR code, which links straight through. The customer scans that, goes straight through to the animal and the farm. And a lot of phones now, if you have the camera function on and move it across, it will all come up instantly, so you don't have to type anything. And then I do a few videos and bits. So I did a video on offal, which is amazing what people will watch. I'm quite into offal, and loads of people watched a video on offal. I was amazed. So again, the tools we've got at our disposal nowadays, it's so easy to do this stuff. And the world is crying out for content, and so it's up to us to try and produce stuff, because we've all got great stories. We've got animals, we've got the outside. It's just kind of doing it.
And just on the theme of marketing, in terms of, and so from an ed perspective, so do you mean you're very much also focusing on pushing both the eggs and the beef out? So how, just describe in terms of how you would approach how you'll sell your products.
So we've gone quite sort of low key. We started off with sort of local sort of friends and family that we knew, sold through there. We've got a website that we haven't sort of really pushed it too hard. We do get some orders through it, mainly during the COVID lockdown has actually really driven more people to look and see what's in the local area and what they can buy without having to go out to the supermarkets. We sell a lot through Facebook. My mother does quite a lot of marketing through there, through sort of either small offers or promoting it, but through Facebook, through the local, like Andy, we do free delivery within 10 miles, and that is where we're sort of selling the bulk of our meat to, is in that local area. The eggs, we don't tend to retail those. It's very sort of about 5% of the eggs are retailed. All of our other ones are sold direct to sort of retailers. We would like to retail more, but it's a sort of a difficult one to sort of have that stock. If we put a box at the end of the road, I think we wouldn't have many eggs left over, or much money left at the end, because our farm drive is half a mile long. So marketing wise, we are pushing it. We are listening to Andy. We are now looking at an online shop to sort of get all that set up.
And Andy, what are you doing? You've obviously had an influx of customers from COVID. How are you going to keep them? Well, try and keep all of them while when it goes.
So it's really interesting. So when at the very start of COVID, we put an animal. I sent it an email to advertise an animal, and it sold out really quickly. And it was mainly our existing customers ordering exactly what they normally order, plus a little bit more, which was really great. But we did get some new customers. Now with this next round that we've just done, we've got quite a few new customers. So it's a case of so there's been a little newsletter going out with the box of beef, and to try and do all the things that super.
Oh, we've lost him. Oh, he's gone. Ed, are you there?
I'm still here.
Oh. Ed, can you just talk about maybe your plans for the future with your eggs, because you're thinking about expanding the egg business, aren't you?
Yeah, we built one chicken house, which is a mobile 38-foot mobile home, which made its way to the farm at 4:30 one morning along the main A road. And it's all completely converted. We're now looking at, we've looked at some commercial ones that you can buy, mainly from the Netherlands, but unfortunately there must be a lot more money in eggs over in the Netherlands than there is over here. So we're now looking at producing our own mobile houses, sort of following all the things that we learnt through this one. We've now got automatic doors on this one, which makes life a lot easier, not having to go out and chase them around in the night, make sure everything's in, especially during the summer. We've got automatic nest box excluders, so we've got much cleaner eggs. Nipple drinkers. Our next thing is to start putting automatic feeding in there. Everything just to try and reduce the amount of daily need that there is in those houses, to reduce the time scale, the amount of labour costs that there is in producing those eggs. If you look at the moment, I suppose if you looked at it on a purely eggs production basis, it would just about wipe its nose. But if you look at it on a much larger basis of the benefit to the land and the targeting that we can use with the chicken house and the benefit to the cattle, we haven't wormed now for 4 years. Despite doing worm egg counts, we haven't got worms. That is also partly due to the 60-day rotation that we aim for, to break any sort of parasite cycle. But yeah, we now want more hens, with demand that we're getting now for the eggs and the demand that we're getting from the estate. I'm looking to try and, well, as a sort of partnership, we're looking to try and get up to 1, maybe 2 more houses. So it takes us to about 900 hens if we can. Wow. Over the next year.
Have we got Andy back? Andy, are you in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, just as you join, Andy, I have a few questions on the marketing side, and I think both yourself and Ed can answer. So I'll just start at the top. Frozen boxes, how are they perceived, as assumed that fresh was preference for people if you're selling frozen? Andy?
No, Ed is frozen beef.
Yeah, we sell frozen. I suppose there are some customers out there who would prefer to be able to have sort of a joint straight away, because we sell beef boxes, and we aren't forward selling those animals. For us, it gives us that sort of certainty that we've got it there in the freezer for the next 6 months, to sell it out. And most of the customers, once you explain that there isn't a degradation of quality, because at the end of the day they're going to end up putting it in the freezer for their period of time. It's got all the dates on there. They can see when it was killed. They can see how old it is. We haven't had any kickback on sort of frozen as in boxes. It did allow a friend of mine down the road who does a similar beef box scheme, that when all of his sort of competitors had sold out of fresh meat in their what they had already killed, he had plenty of frozen that he was expecting to sell over the next few months. He sold out in a week, sending up to 90 boxes a day out. Yes, like I say, there are probably some people out there who don't want frozen meat, but I think the public perception has now changed, that they are now willing to accept it if they're looking for more quality product.
Well, the next one's probably for both of you. I can start with Andy. And there's kind of 2 separate questions, but I think they both relate. How do you configure your boxes, and how do you both achieve carcass balance?
Yeah, it's a good one. So I do a cook's box, which is 10 kilos and slow cooked kind of stuff. Do a family box, 2 joints, 2 packets of stewed steak, 2 mince, and some quick cooked steaks. then they were just for 2 box, which is really aimed at 2 people and sort of meal solutions, and that's got some steaks in. And
sorry, it's muted. Sorry, Andy.
James Drummond sounds like he was digging a road up.
He's on a quad bike, I think.
So it's about trying different options, but that kind of works. For me, it is in some. At the moment, we're very lucky because people want everything. In the past, we've had a little bit of an issue with perhaps a few too many joints around. Although people at the moment want lots of mince, and that's really tricky. So at the moment, I control that by, on the website, you can only buy extra mince if you buy a box. You can't just buy 12 packets of mince because that gets really tricky. What we can do is I've put cull cows through before, minced, well, 70% of them, and then that gives you extra mince to kind of balance out the rest. I also, top rumps, I tend to put from summer onwards into charcuterie, and then we sell a lot of bresaola at Christmas. Other times of the year people don't really want it, but at Christmas they're willing to pay, they're willing to something a bit different. So you do have to keep an eye on it. I now know as we process an animal, so we do everything in batches. So for example, we'll start cutting these 2 animals tomorrow. We do that Thursday, Friday. As everything's fact packed, it goes into a spreadsheet, so we know what we've got. We know the live weight of the animal, the dead weight of the animal, and so you can predict forward what you're going to get, and then you can plan how many boxes of what you think you're going to get. I then put these on the web shop, and then that helps you control the inventory. But it's also always good to know what price per kilo your retail, what you're selling your steaks at, for example, and make sure in your boxes that you're not selling your boxes too cheap, or you're not actually selling them for more than what individual cuts would cost. But I think for me, it works to try and sell things as a box because it does allow me a bit of flexibility. And I like selling it fresh because it means, so the animal's cut up, it's vacuum packed Friday, it'll all go out delivered Monday, and then there'll be a little bit in the freezer, but not very much, and then the next cycle can happen. So for me, it helps with cash flow, it's just something we did from the start.
But I think you also mentioned the other day, which is about using someone else's infrastructure, isn't it? That's part of it as well. It's not that the investment in big freezers or isn't on your farm per se, but
yeah. So we started out when we started doing the beef. We were very keen. I was very keen to not spend any money really. So we got to do all the packing and cutting, which was fine. We had to do more labelling because his labels weren't great. But my brother does free-range turkeys at his farm, so we had 2 chillers and a converted milking parlour, which we did turkeys in. But they were only used for 2 weeks a year maximum. So talking to our EHO, we kind of moved into there doing the beef, and that's worked really well. And actually, it's turned out that our butcher, talking to someone today, has put his prices up for packing 20%. He's just jumped. Wow. So it's costing my friend about £600 now to have an animal killed, butchered, and packed, which means that our doing it on farm is actually just a little bit cheaper than that now.
Andy, can you just explain how, first of all, how you're continually every month, or did you write down what you need to improve on all the time? Do you do an animal and then can you just tell that story?
So with that's right. So it's trying to keep organised, and I do struggle with that a bit. But with I am involved in my brother's turkey operation, and that's on a yearly cycle. So you have to write down your improvements in December because you'll have forgotten them by November the next year. So we had a reasonable good system of writing those down, having a bit of a debrief, and then making sure they happened. So we tried to do the same with the beef, and that's worked quite well. And there's things you can use. So I've been using Trello, which is a little online app of sort of virtual pinboards, and you can share them with other people. And so that helps me keep track. And so each cycle I'm trying to improve it and get a bit more efficient and make sure that we the product quality is, always improving really, because that's really important.
We have another question. What I'll do as well is I'll do a slight plug on the AHDB website. There's a load of tools and resources and calculators for breaking down carcasses, and they're free, so I'm sure Andy used them. But going to Ed, we do have a question. Do you need egg packing room or specific regs to follow to sell your eggs?
Yes, you do. Where we're selling off the farm as to retail outlets, in the quantity that we're selling, we serve about 300 birds. We're under the limit. We're under the regulations for actually being a registered house. But to retail it, we go through all of the full cycle of salmonella testing. We have a packing room. The packing room doesn't need to be as sort of fancy as ours, but ours duals up as our freezer and sort of distribution room. So it is all lined with the plastic boards and a washable floor and hand washing basin, etc. Some people have them in a wooden shed as a packing room. It's to keep the temperatures down, temperature at the right level, vermin free. We're registered with the egg inspector, we're registered with the EHO for both the egg packing and for the meat sales. It's not too onerous. It's an online form where they come out and give you an egg stamp. It's the number that's on top of the eggs. If you're retailing off farm through a retailer, you have to have a packing number on the back of the box and also a stamp on the egg saying your production number.
Like an ear tag for eggs. Bad enough.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And also, because you've got a slightly different approach to your beef box, don't you? Do you tend to do them in weight selection or weight?
We
amounts?
at the moment do them in. We do a 5 kilo and a 10 kilo. However, sort of to try and use up the bits that don't fit into those boxes, or to sort of give a bit of a mixture. We have had some mince boxes. We have had some dice boxes. Larger joints for some people, because that's just flexing with Andy's got, I think, one of the more perfect systems by cutting to a bit of an order himself. We use an external company for our killing and cutting, so we give a specification for what we're looking for, weight wise, packs, etc., and they work to that. We are looking at sending a cull cow in to sort of a nice fat one to boost our mince and steaks at a level at the moment, just to give us that balance. We put a lot of recipe cards and that sort of thing in with the boxes, so instead of sending out mince as burgers, which you could do, but a little bit cautious about ending up with lots of burgers towards the end of the season, we give a recipe card with this how we make our burgers is the recipe made himself.
Get on with it.
I was just thinking, you've both really good at your marketing, and I know when we had James Evans on 2 weeks ago, he said it was probably an area where he hadn't worked on as much. So, and you're obviously both doing a good job of it, and I wondered where you've learned that from. Is there books? Is there websites? Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I joined the Pasture for Life. It's probably about 4 years ago now, and I mean they've been a huge help and a massive sort of influence on my life really from then. So they've got an online forum where you can ask any question. I think there's now over between 500 and 600 farmers on there, or not just farmers. And so that's been really helpful in finding all sorts of links and information. So everything about, what gauge vac packs all the way through to,
Oh, he's gone again.
Dodgy internet connection that side of the M4.
Is. It's all the online sales is doing in the background.
Go on, Ed, talk books.
So marketing, I actually came from a sales background. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I've worked for various sales sort of systems, selling equipment. So through that, I have picked up bits and pieces. Also, I think to be a salesman, you've got to be very personable. You've got to just talk to anyone, and that, I think, is one of the things. Reading through Joel Salatin's books, Gabe Brown's books, how they market sort of, I suppose, grass-fed beef is a bit of a unique product in this, is growing in this country, but it's the home marketing. Charlotte Smith, who is can't remember the name of her company. She does as American lady, does online marketing courses. She's got lots of hints and tips. It's sort of things like don't give a discount, give a bonus. So rather than discounting a pack, give something extra. There's a lot out there in farm marketing. I think the Americans are slightly further ahead with us in the sense of marketing, but yeah.
And you also, when we spoke a while ago, sorry, I'm not a huge reader, but I have got more into it. And you recommended a book called The Third Plate. Was that you?
Yeah. The Third Plate is a book by Dan Barber, who's a chef in America, and it's sort of, it is one of those sort of epiphany books, for want of a better word. You start reading that and you sort of realise why we do what we do in regenerative farming, and how he's gone through his journey through sort of like learning about regenerative farming from his grandmother, and then through as being a chef, and how that sort of works through. That is a sort of a key book in my armoury, and I've got 3 copies of it now that are lent out to various people. Another one is Dirt to Soil, which is Gabe Brown's book, which talks about sort of regenerative farming as well.
And I'm also interested in terms of how, from a marketing perspective, but also when you're talking to customers and people who come in to buy your beef and eggs, how interested are they in what you're doing on the farm? So does it all start to tie in together? Are they searching that out? Or
I think when you start to, people are sort of looking for local, I think when they realise that they're there on the doorstep, when you start speaking to them about what you're doing, how you're doing it, they sort of pick up on, I've heard about herbal lays, and I've heard about this, and I've heard about that, and you can sort of get them hooked quite quickly. Mostly I've heard about it in the Archers. My stepfather can get someone on the hook for hours talking about regenerative farming. He seems to have read every single book there is under the sun on it. We both sort of bounce all these different ideas, and it's how we sort of get that out to the public, and how we as regenerative farmers sort of promote that to the wider public as supposed to be the third way. You've got your staunch organic, and you've got your staunch sort of grain fed and full. We're at the bit in the middle.
And so in terms of that element of communicating to the public and getting that message out is quite part of it, isn't it? It's part of the story that one without the other doesn't make sense. You've got to get it out.
Yeah, and a picture tells 1,000 words. We do a lot of sort of we need to do a lot more photos on the website, photos on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, just to sort of push what we're doing this week, toying with ideas of sort of like virtual farm walks as to what we're doing. We found, from a nature point of view on the farm, that we never had hares. Me growing up here on the farm, we've never seen hares on the farm. I think we've now got 2 or 3 couples on the farm, partly due to longer grass lengths, that they've now got somewhere to sort of hide and live in there. We've got more birds, more flowers. The landscape is sort of changing on the farm, all for the benefit of the general public, for what they can see.
And do you have an image of or a vision of where you want to get that farm to? I described it the other day as flocking bumblebees. I'm not sure what the collective noun for bumblebees is. Flocking bumblebees. But do you have an image of what you want that farm to look like?
As a purely on a sort of financial basis, we want the farm to be a fully sustainable regenerative farm that allows us to support 2 families on the farm. At the moment I work off the farm because the farm can't do it. We want to be retailing all of our meat directly, but not to the degradation of the land that we farm it on. We're working very hard to build it up and working very hard on our animal welfare, so we sort of do everything we can to keep it all going. Yes, in 10 years I'd like to be on the farm working full time, hopefully on Somerset further, and growing the egg business, the meat business, alongside that.
I think Andy should be back, so I have 1 or 2 kind of questions that came in on the marketing side, and kind of relating it back to your regenerative farming. So do either of you measure your organic matter, and if so, how are you doing it? And then kind of just adding on to that bit, then do you see with the carbon you're sequestering, do you see this as a marketing point, or do you use it as a marketing point at the moment? I don't know if Andy is back.
Yeah, so and I know it's too late, but we've started doing carbon measuring this year with Flag as part of a trial. I know we should have done it before, but so it is something, I think that it is something that's important. Whether we can measure it and whether we can be sure of what we're measuring, I'm not entirely sure yet. So I'm equally or perhaps more interested in looking at things like biodiversity and indicators that are showing that the ecosystem as a whole is functioning and is improving. So we do a lot of bird watching, bird surveying. So we've got our 100th species of bird about last month that we've seen in the last 3 years, and we're sort of in about over 50 species a month. I might get 60 this month, and so that's all useful data. And I think at the moment, for most people, it's an easier conversation to talk about some of those bird species and plant species than it is soil carbon, but we shouldn't shy away from that. So I wish I did know more about my soil carbon levels, and hopefully we will know a little bit more. But I also think looking at a whole list of indicators is equally important.
I think that's a good answer. I think I'll ask this is an easy question for you, Ed. With the different kind of schemes that are out there, pasture-fed, organic, regenerative ag, are we in danger of confusing customers with all these labels, and are we in danger of diluting them all?
It's difficult to put an easy description on regenerative agriculture. We went organic for the fact that we would like to, in 5 years' time, sort of come away from being organic as a label, because hopefully by then we'll have done enough with the public, at least in our area, as to what regenerative ag is. I feel organic can be quite constrictive. On the flip side, the PFLA is working very hard to sort of set the wording of what pasture-fed animals are. You can call something grass-fed and sort of feed it grass, yes, but then you can still feed it grain. as a grass-fed, as long as its predominant diet is grass. Under the Pasture for Life, with their standards, it is 100% grass. And I think that's another that's an advantage of the PFLA. There are quite a few labels, but I think the public can accept them for the moment.
Yeah, I think also on that, probably the most important label is actually your own label. So Pasture for Life is really important, and we get some extremely enthusiastic, very informed customers come from the Pasture for Life website, and they're great, and they know more about conjugated linoleic acid than I'll ever know, and what health benefits the meat would have, and they're great. And the Pasture for Life side is the one that I've kind of pinned us to, but it's also really important to have our own brand, because I am pretty sure that they're very big into 100% grass finished beef going forward. I mean, some of our stabilizers we're killing just over 18 months old, over 300 kilogram carcass weights, and we're seeing some arable people putting in herbal lays, integrated systems that can produce big numbers. So I think you've got to, which is a good thing, but I think you've still got to make sure that your own brand is sort of strong, and you push it and you make those links with people. Also with the local, if your customers are local and you're actually getting in front of them, I think the certification is perhaps less important than if you're a customer going into a supermarket and never meeting that farmer. That's where perhaps the organic certification is very important, because it's a proxy for meat. It's instead of meeting that farmer. And I'm sure with 70 animals, 80 animals to sell a year maximum, I can get in front of all of those people every year. It's not like I'm trying to sell 1,000 bodies of beef a year.
Just one last quick one for you, Andy. I'm not sure if this is a question of the people who buy it, but how much beef fat do you sell? And then the second part is who buys it?
Yes, that's an interesting one. So it's the people that have come via the Pasture for Life website. So I have a few very interesting customers that are, that's right. So we have some on ketogenic diets, which that might be a calling for the hemp pants. But so they're eating beef fat. People are also roasting them potatoes in it, and buying a lot of offal, a lot of bones. Had a guy spend 120 quid just on bones and fat.
So Andy, how much is 500 grams of beef fat? Is it
£4? In fact, I'd say £3.50 to you.
I'm just conscious of the time, and also we do need to fit in belts and butterfly walks.
So we do a few. Belts. So again, this is this layering thing where to actually allow me to give up my other job and to really sort of take the farm to its full potential and maximize the kind of regenerative approach, we need more enterprises. So I bought this 1963 Bedford TK sort of livestock lorry on eBay the other year, and I'm converting it into a glamping pod. It was meant to open in April, but obviously it hasn't, and also it's not finished. So I'm working hard to try and get that up and running, and it will be up and running this summer. And the idea is that will integrate in with the cattle. Cattle will be a big attraction, I hope. People stay on a working farm with regenerative approaches. And so we're going for sort of high-end glamping, and I think that should be a really, really essential part in the mix. And then I'm really interested in...
That's one question. Are you moving... Will the glamping site move? So will that vehicle move around the farm? Okay, so it's stationary.
It's stationary. It's also quite a scary drive. It's got turning circle. Well, the turning circle is huge, and you need biceps anyway. Okay, so it's going to be stationary, and we're going for full planning permission to permanently site it. So we've got that sort of coming along, and then very interested in making best use of the animal. You'll see at the moment the leather trade is absolutely, they are getting rid of all their hides at most abattoirs. They're even charging farmers now for the hides to be disposed of. So I've done a few experiments getting some hides tanned as belts, but that's actually really difficult to get done, especially at the moment. But there is good money to be made in leather, and so that's something on the sort of back burner that I'm keen to make happen.
So those are belts that you've made there?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're sold out at the moment because I'm struggling to get the tannery that I've been using to tan anymore. They won't tan anymore at the moment, which is a great shame. So we're looking at a few other options. Yeah.
Okay.
And the last one, just in terms of this dawn chorus.
Yeah. So very briefly, getting people want experiences, the whole experience economy, and they will pay for experiences. So we like to keep our farm walks free because I'm keen to do that. We do often have big barbecue and charge for burgers, etc. But we do some paid for dawn chorus walks, and people will get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, come to your farm, we're paying about £20, and so a 2-hour walk, and then a fried breakfast at the end, cooked by my brother. So quite rustic, quite low key, and we've got the bird recorder for Wiltshire from the BTO, sort of leads them, and it's great. It's really good fun. Although it was a bit grim getting up last year at 4 a.m. when there was ice still around. So it's just something different. And if people come into the farm, they buy more often, they buy more, and you can actually get this sort of link. So
I'm just, you're both working off farm, and the people are a real focus of your business, like that customer contact. Do you think working off farm makes that easier?
I think you meet more people off farm, and it gives you more sort of avenues to sort of promote your wares. It's can also be harder with the amount of work you then have to do. So when you get back, but packing eggs at 2 o'clock in the morning is a low light. But yes, you do. I think it's different experiences help drive the marketing and help drive those more people. I think if you purely are on the farm, you are going to meet a lot less people unless you've got a farm shop to sort of get the message out there.
But interestingly, both of you are driven to be on the farm more, aren't you? In terms of that's your ambition is to be there full time. Yeah. But with bringing life skills that you, I suppose, bring them back, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Joseph, any more questions?
Sorry, apologies, I'll mute myself. Should pasture beef be able to compete price-wise against feedlot-style beef, or, to be honest, pasture against other systems?
Well, so my answer about people doing it on a larger scale in arable rotations gives them economies of scale. However, it would be daft to try and compete. The only way to make real money, I think, and be a sustainable and regenerative business is actually to have low costs of production and actually have a bit of a premium at their end. You have to have it at both ends, I think, to be a sustainable regenerative business. And so, I think it would be a bit of a shame to try and take them on at the same price point. I think that would be a bit foolish, but some people might do that.
Okay. Any others, Joseph, or are we done?
I'll pick out one or two quick ones, because I'm conscious we won't get through them all. So I apologise if I haven't asked your question. I think this one's gone back to you, Andy. You say you're not using fertiliser, so what are you doing to get the grass to grow? Does it compost, or does the algae help that's left behind after the flood?
We're moving them every day, and we've extended our grazing period, so April to hopefully end of November. So everyday move distributes the dung, long rest period. The faster you move them, the more you graze, the better the grass grows. It's like what's the word? A virtual circle. It sort of improves and improves. So that's how you get the grass to grow, by keep moving the cows. And I can show you now that the grass we grazed on the 4th of April is grown better than the stuff we didn't graze. So yeah, it's getting that rotation growing, not overgrazing, not spending the money, and yeah. And
then one last one for Ed. I'll declare self-interest. I've got 3 chickens and they're like Houdini artists. So do your hens stay inside electric fencing, and is it mains?
Yes, it is. So all of our farm is we have sort of ring electric fence around all the fields, run off a mains fence back in the buildings, and then we run a wire off the mains. You get one or two who hop over the fence if they're a bit enthusiastic, flying out the door first thing in the morning. They might sort of, and you've put the house a bit too close to the fence, they can sort of oversail their food bowl. But the food's inside the fence, the water's inside their fence, so they quite happily either get picked up and chucked back over, or find their way back in again. We've had one or two incursions from foxes, but tends to be at night. We'll sort of try and get in, but not touch a lot of wood here. Not for quite a while. So yeah, they do respect it now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So really interesting. So the bits I've taken very much is these sort of layers of business, isn't it? So you're layering complementary businesses on top of one another, stacking businesses to get the biggest value out of what you're up to. And also that the importance of, from a regenerative perspective, is about how it's a very holistic elements. It's about that communication. It's about engagement with community and people, but fundamentally customers. You wanted to sell the product ideally locally. So they're my main points, really.
Yeah, and I think it's what Andy said before about the social side. One of the farmers who's on the call said whenever he speaks to Andy, he gets a warm feeling inside of him.
I think it's a bromance.
But it's that.
I think you should clarify that comment, Nicola. What he actually said was he'd always leave him feeling optimistic.
It was a warm feeling. It was.
But
it's that social, that what you're doing is a good thing. And I think that's that's a good thing. So just I'd like to say thanks again to AHDB, who really let us be able to do this. If you, just a quick plug, if you don't receive any AHDB emails, or you may be being dropped off our email list because of GDRP, just send me an email and I'll help you sort it out, because lots of people have fallen off the list. And Liz, are we going to do this again? We've got plans, haven't we?
Yeah, so hopefully again in 2 weeks' time. And the theme really for next time will be sort of talking to farmers who are more sort of trying to integrate livestock into arable systems. So so maybe min-till as well. So it's a bit more about arable systems, but very much also they are livestock businesses as well. That's the theme. So we've got a couple of ideas of people we need to approach. But if you wish to volunteer, we're very also happy for volunteers, but that would be the main theme for the next one.
And also, if you've got people who you think might be interested in being on the call, and just get them to email me their email address. And thank you to Joseph, and huge thanks to our farmers, and yeah.
And thank you very much for organising it.
Thanks for putting it on.
Yeah, so until next time.
Yeah, and we'll tweet out in terms of where you can find it on YouTube. So thank you very much.
Yes, we'll be on, Carbon Callings on YouTube.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.